banished from death. A curse binds us together.
Who are you?
I shaped the history of Middle-earth. I crafted the rings of power.
Let me break this down for you in the most straightforward way I can. If not for the Nemesis system, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor would have been like a pretty decent but kind of forgettable open-world action game. Think Arkham-style combat mixed with some Assassin's Creed parkour. It might have turned a few heads since it carries the Lord of the Rings license, but honestly, it wouldn't have lived in our memories for very long. Here's where things get interesting. Back in 2014, Shadow of Mordor was on just about everyone's mind for months, and that was almost entirely because of its revolutionary Nemesis system. It took what could have been a solid but ordinary experience and transformed it into the next big thing. Before I dive deeper, I'd love if you'd consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon for notifications, just to stay in the loop. All right, let's get started. I'm not exaggerating when I say the Nemesis system is like one of the best new gameplay systems introduced in the 8th console generation. But why did it work so well? Well, like any great mechanic, it hits that sweet spot between simplicity and complexity. On paper, it's basically made of just 2 or 3 underlying systems, but they all interact with each other in ways that feel dynamic, unpredictable, and super engaging. In the simplest terms, the Nemesis system is about emergent storytelling. Your actions as Talion directly affect enemy NPCs, whether they live or die, thrive or fail, and that, in turn, affects you. Let's say you kill an enemy. A brand new orc steps in to climb up from the bottom of Mordor's military ladder. Rinse and repeat. Sounds simple, right? But when that loop starts repeating over and over, it grows and escalates in a way that somehow never gets boring. At first, it's straightforward. You get killed by an orc, that orc gets promoted. Then the Nemesis system kicks into high gear. A promoted orc gets a unique name, voice, personality, and appearance. If you meet again, he'll gloat about the last time he beat you. If he beats you again, he gets even more overconfident, and so on. Grunts become captains. Captains become war chiefs. And in Shadow of War, war chiefs can become overlords. Each promotion boosts their strengths, fixes their weaknesses, and even upgrades their gear. But it doesn't stop with just you and the orc you faced. These orcs also interact with each other. Rivalries can break out between captains. One might defeat another and rise through the ranks. Maybe you decide to dominate an orc and make him your secret ally. Then he challenges his overlord, and you're one step closer to taking down that overlord yourself. Shadow of War cranks this up even further. Orcs can have friendships, so if you kill one, his blood brother might come after you for revenge. It's this living, breathing world of orc politics, and deciding whether or how to interfere becomes a crucial part of progressing. Maybe you help a weak captain become stronger, just so you can dominate him later. You can do things like ordering your captains to issue death threats to bring war chiefs out of hiding, or you can get a captain to pass a war chief's initiation, so he's closer to the top, which means he's also more useful to you once you dominate him. Over time, it becomes this elaborate web. If you're savvy enough, you can maneuver things so that half of Sauron's higher-ups are essentially working for you. And honestly, that's only scratching the surface. In Shadow of Mordor, it was already impressive. In Shadow of War, it's massive. You can tinker with so many little moving parts and effectively bend the game to your will. It's like feeling you're this all-powerful puppet master, slowly dismantling Sauron's army from the inside. But it doesn't just shine as a gameplay system. It also delivers fantastic, emergent storytelling. Picture an orc who starts off as a nobody, then kills Talion and gets promoted. The next time you fight, he gloats about your previous defeat. Maybe this time you dominate him and make him your follower. You steer him through various promotions until he's got real power. Eventually, he helps you take down a war chief. It's not a scripted moment, but it feels like a completely personal saga you'll remember long after you've put down the controller. Now, here's the bummer. Warner Brothers managed to patent the Nemesis system. That means we probably won't see other developers freely borrowing and adapting it. which kinda sucks for all of us who were dying to see it spread across different genres. Assassin's Creed Odyssey toyed with a similar idea in its mercenary system, but that felt like a shallow kiddie pool next to the Nemesis system's deep ocean. Here's where things get interesting. The Nemesis system patent was filed way back in 2016. It's not set to expire until 2036, which is like practically a lifetime away in gaming years. If you're curious, you can actually find the whole thing on Google Patents. It's fascinating. It shows you exactly how the Nemesis system operates behind the scenes. And because Warner Brothers basically patented the entire process, nobody else can really come close without risking a lawsuit. Some people wonder if maybe a game could do something kinda similar. But the patent is pretty broad. If you get too close, you'll probably get smacked with a cease and desist. And let's remember, this patent isn't sitting with Monolith. It's owned by Warner Brothers Entertainment. Even if Monolith had it originally, any big parent company usually takes over that stuff. So there's no magical scenario in which the closure of Monolith means the Nemesis system gets freed up for everyone to use. Licensing? Sure. In theory, Warner Brothers could license the Nemesis system out, but that would cost a fortune. And in an industry where studios are already complaining about the skyrocketing cost of making games, I can't really see like Phil Spencer or Ubisoft willingly handing over a big chunk of revenue just to replicate a system they might be able to half-invent themselves. So I find it super unlikely any other publisher would do that deal. What could actually happen is that Warner Brothers makes another game that features the Nemesis system. Honestly, that's the most realistic scenario here. And if you ask me, it makes sense. Because the new guy heading up Warner Brothers Games, JB Perrette, seems a lot more tuned in to what gamers actually want. He's apparently done a decent job so far, asking the right questions and actually trying to bring the company back to the glory days it had around 2014 to 2015. Remember, Warner Brothers was killing it then with the Arkham games and Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. But once David Haddad took over, everything turned into a bit of a mess. Now, with JB stepping up, the hope is that he'll recenter the focus on what made those games rock, like the Nemesis system, for instance. Plus, Jason Schreier mentioned that Rocksteady might be quietly pitching a new Batman game. Imagine if they retool some version of the Nemesis system for Gotham. That alone would be an instant goldmine. But, here's the catch. Because Warner Brothers knows how valuable the Nemesis system is, they'll be tempted to monetize the heck out of it. We saw them try that with Middle-earth, Shadow of War, right? And given their track record with games like Suicide Squad, Kill, the Justice League, Multiversus, and Quidditch Champions, it's possible they might bring back the Nemesis system only to load it up with microtransactions or live service elements. Hopefully they've learned from the fiascos of the last few years, like how they had to strip out loot boxes from Shadow of War after massive backlash. But we'll see. So no, it's not all doom and gloom. We'll probably see the Nemesis system again before 2036, especially now that it's back under leadership that seems more open to fan-favorite concepts. But when it does show up, keep your eyes peeled for potential monetization shenanigans. If they start pulling the same stunts with loot boxes or heavy-handed add-ons, then we should definitely call them out. Gamers proved with Shadow of War and, more recently, with Suicide Squad, that loud feedback can force studios to pivot. Anyway, those are my 2 cents. What do you think? Do you see Warner Brothers bringing back the Nemesis system soon? Or do you think they'll let it gather dust until the patent expires?